Actually, yesterday about all the award achievements, so I will just make underline one element: his tremendous comedian qualities and savoir-faire, how he managed audiences, and that is why he's also very successful in TV. I am very jealous, but well, among friends, jealousy had to be put away. So, Quincy, take it over. Thank you. Oh, there is catalog that you can get for free.
Okay, so first we're going to start with a video of the Be.Bop and with sound, hopefully. Wait, let's start it again? Yeah. I would need the backdrop to be gone, so no backdrop. And I first want to ask you guys, how many of you know that we're in the decade of people of African descent right now? Okay, more than enough, so I'm good. And that's where I got this bag from. There was a launching of the event in the Netherlands, and they gave out these tote bags at the event with conversations, with discussions going on. And it was, for me, interesting and fascinating to see what exactly came along with this understanding of it. Now, before I start, don these white gloves and try to handle some things with a grip that is beyond my own fingertips, that is beyond my own fingerprints. I'm trying to understand the edges of my being as something that is born from violence, but that should not stay in existence in that same violence. But sometimes you refuse, you reject, you resist, and you push, and that is deemed as violence. So is it? Is a defense the same as an aggression? Is me saying no? Is me saying I don't want this? Is me saying let's do this a different way the same as machismo? Maybe. Maybe not. But I think it's always good to think about the packaging of what you do. Because some fruits do bruise easily. And then you find wrappings and you find ways of enclosing yourselves within this understanding of how to communicate beyond the violence of your initial existence. And you try and you try and you try to understand how it is that you project beyond representation, how it is that you think beyond the surface, how it is that you go into the skin. I mean, looking at me, something that you guys would not think of is that I have Danish ancestry. Yeah, right? I mean, the understanding of what it means to be Danish, what it means to be European, what it means to be Caribbean, is something that is beyond the surface level of the skin, and yet is intricately connected to it. Because what we see is what we lead with. And what we lead with sometimes makes us jump off cliffs. So, when thinking of whiteness and when thinking of white identity politics, I try to understand how it is like to be my skin. Not think to it, not think beyond it, but be my skin. To feel the raindrops, to feel the wind, to think about snow, to understand, not understand, to feel coldness of outside of the body, beyond our initial temperature, beyond the temperature that we exist in. I tried to figure out how it is that we've gone from these little one-cell amoebas into the billion cells that we inhabit now. And so, there is where we have to think about what it is exactly that we've bought when buying into all of these ideas about race. What exactly are the receipts that we carry with us? We don't understand what it is that is actually in our bag. I've been thinking about what it is that I would have liked to ask my dad before he passed away, about what it is that he experienced, to make him keep using this phrase with us as kids. I didn't really get the chance to. And I think that's the draw of the dice. Life is fickle, or at least our understanding of life is fickle. So, in the Caribbean, one of the things that we love to do as well is we love to understand chance, but in chance in a calculated way. You have different teams, you talk about stones, you throw stones, you look at eyes, and you try to get the one that connects to the other one. You try to get to the end of the game as a team, as a collective. You try to go beyond your solitary need to win and reach that point where you as a team and you as a group, you as a community can say, we have overcome the elements that have tried to keep us back. The chances that we could not have received, but that we have played into winning hands. And I think it's thinking about that difference between the fingers that we get to that point of understanding whiteness, right? Because it is in that distance of the fingers, the distance that sometimes pushes fingers to write words and themes and concepts and ideas that enact violence. The pen is more dangerous than the sword. The sword kills, but the pen renders you useless. And I think it's this idea of use, this idea of understanding what it is that we're here on earth to do, which boggles my mind. How could my use be defined by someone who does not know me? Someone who simply sees eyes or feet, simply sees the red of my tongue, simply sees my neck, my shoulders, simply understands me by my toes, my toenail clippings, simply tries to see me as my belly button and not the connection with my mom who birthed me. Not my connection to a womb that exists. Not my acceptance into this world by forces which we cannot understand, but which lead us to get to that moment of connecting with one another through sights and sounds, through feelings. So, where do you go from here? Right? Because I think we need to understand. No, I keep saying understand. My brother once told me I need to say overstand. And even with that understanding of overstand and instead of understand, it's part of this hierarchical view of the world, right? Being on top is good, not being at the bottom. While sometimes being closer to the earth is a place where you want to be. Reaching into the soil, touching the warmthness, the coolness, trying to understand how it is that worms exist and keep on going. That they pass through the earth, enrich it as it enriches them. How fungi functions, sprouting up in places that you do not expect, but they're there. Turning the most grotesque into the most beautiful. Should we be fungi? Should we let go of the rhizome idea and become that which does not go via one direction but goes via multi? Multi-directional, multipolar, multi-understandings, multi-overstandings, multi-standings, multi-lanes, multi-beings, multi-existences, multi-universes. But we need to be able to keep the door open now. Alright? Because sometimes you get into this metaphysical understanding of the world and then you forget that someone else has a way of getting into your door. That there is a certain material power which cannot be let go, which should not be disacknowledged, which should always be remembered, because the violence that is enacted on us is sometimes a sword, and if the sword hits you, then the pen cannot save you either. So how exactly do we stop that force, that brute force? How exactly do we make sure that frontex is stopped by us? That we understand that our borders, which are porous for companies, which go beyond the world, should not keep the ones who are should not. And here I get this notion of borders, right? So, my mom used to be a model, which is pretty cool. And I would hear stories of her traversing the Caribbean and just showing up. And then being the pretty face, and at the same time behind her back having a banner talking about, fighting injustice. Beauty and brains. Amazing. And she would tell me stories of standing on bridges in Curacao, holding up signs to stop the raising of gas prices, to stop the precarization of workers, to stop the automation which rendered people jobless, to stop the going away of Shell, to stop the colonial practices. And she would tell me that she would be standing there with 2 or 3 other friends as cars drove by and honked at them and told them they were not doing it right. And yet they drove past. Why not stop? Why not reorient themselves around these issues of injustice? Why not stand, lay beyond this idea of solitary individual responsibility? We're a collective, right?
Yes.
We're here together, right? So how exactly how? And I think there is where we come to the understanding of playing as sometimes being more dangerous than people understand. Because when you play, when you tell someone that you're gamifying society, when you tell someone that their rules don't apply to you because you have different rules that you play by, you order the world differently. You see the world differently. And when you see the world differently, you can start to imagine beyond your sight what it means to reorient yourself and see everything as an option. You opt in to certain ways of doing it. You can be the professor at the university and use the paycheck that you get to then fund anti-democratic or anti-authoritarian groups. You can use the hegemonic rules against the hegemony and yet be aware that that is not enough. That there needs to be more beyond you. That your awareness of your edges is what makes you dangerous, because being aware of them says that you are not universal. And once you understand that your measurements are not universal, then everything can be done. Then we can create new clothes. Then we can clothe other people than the emperor. But it's all about understanding the measurements, right? It's all about trying to figure out if it's inches or centimeters, millimeters, diameters, if it's about the circumference, or if it's about the surface, or if it's about square meters or cubes or liters, or if it's about pounds, because sometimes I see pounds and I'm thinking, but wait, I exist in kilograms, so how can I exist in pounds as well? I don't get it. And yet at the same time, a pound of flesh is something that we understand, but what exactly is a pound of flesh? Is that 500 grams? What's an ounce? I've been listening to people talk about 40 ounces in rap for so long, and I don't know what a 40 ounce is. I've seen those bottles and I keep wondering, what exactly is this? How these measurements don't make sense to me, because I was once 165, and now according to my passport I'm 179, and yet my weight fluctuates. I was 70 at a point. I think kilograms per pounds would be weird if I'm 70 pounds. And then now when I jump on scales, they tell me I'm 85, and yet I don't quite get it, because I don't think I'm 85 kilograms. I sometimes feel I'm a bit weightier. And yet it's this weight which informs my steps, which leaves imprints on the world, that guide me to where I can go. Because if I'm in quicksand, then I can't take a step forward. I need a branch from someone else to pull me out. And for them to understand how much my weight is, for them to be able to pull me out, do they need 1 or 2 or 3? Do they need rope, or is a branch enough? Do they need steel, or is it just a beam of light, just a eye-to-eye contact? Or is it just the motion, the gesture of an arm gripping out, which is enough to save you from going under, being swallowed by the tiny fragments of boulders and rocks which became sand, which are there at the edges of water. But we exist out of water, so how can it be dangerous to us? So these are all the questions that I have for so many nights, so many days, so many hours, so many minutes been bowling me over, because I don't quite get it. I don't quite understand how knowing all of this knowledge is not stopping fascism. We know this, right? So how exactly are we losing? And yet hearing some of these fascist politicians talk about being discriminated against, I do have a sense that we've won because they're using our language. So if our concepts are being used by our enemies, is our enemy then our friend? Or is the concept wrong? Should concepts...
at this panel.
Thank you. My name is Malcolm Mignolo, and I'm a member of parliament in Sweden. I'm glad to be here. Unfortunately, I couldn't be here the past couple of days because we were working on something that is very connected to what we're going to discuss here today. We are working on trying to get some form of legislation that would make it possible for the migrants, refugees that are living in Sweden that are unaccompanied minors and do not have any papers, to make it possible for them to have residence permit, to be able to stay in the country and have access to the rights that everybody else has. And fortunately, we at least made a small victory by voting and winning a vote in Parliament, making it possible for a small number, 9,000 children, have the possibility now to get residence permit to stay and have the same rights as everybody else. I couldn't miss that vote, so that was why I was not able to be here the rest of the week since the beginning of the Be.Bop. But I'm glad to be here. I work on issues concerning human rights. I'm in politics, but I normally don't introduce myself as a politician. I'm an activist in politics, and I think there's a difference. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. Thank you.
So now, who would like to start? Who would like to start? Let's say that you have 15, 20 minutes. If you need more, you use more. And then we open the conversation. Yeah.
Okay, all right, I can start. I'm very glad to be here, as I mentioned, and I've been part of Be.Bop now for I think the past 4 years. I've been trying to attend every event, and the topic that we're going to discuss, to me, is a very, very interesting topic because it has everything to do with me as a person, but it has everything to do with the political climate in Europe today. But it's important to, when we discuss this topic, to focus on a couple of issues. That we don't only look at the political climate today, but look at the history behind the political climate. If you're looking at the immigration, as we call it in the text that I've written, it's a humanitarian crisis. People say it's a refugee crisis, but I think it's a humanitarian crisis because it has everything to do with how we, as human beings, perceive others, how we want to treat other people. Quite often, what we see in Europe today is that we treat other people as the other, and absolutely not the way we want people to treat us when we're in the same situation. So it's important when we're talking about the situation today in Europe that we look at it at a historical perspective. If you look at Europe's relationship to, for example, Africa, it started long ago. And it's important to understand that historical relationship that existed and still continues to exist between Europe and Africa. Now, people are coming here today, and if you look at media, it sounds as if, for example, people of African descent are just arriving here, or Europe has just started, engaging people of African descent. But it's a narrative that is made by, as you were saying, whiteness. It is a narrative that is based on people that can construct knowledge, people that can produce knowledge, and somehow impose that knowledge on the rest of us. Most of the people that are living here today of African origin, they're coming here because Europe have been there. We are here because Europe have been in Africa. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. If you look at the colonial history of Europe and the West in Africa, it is nothing but brutal, extremely brutal. I was in Brussels, I think last week, when we tried to organize one of the first conferences where we can focus on people of African descent and Black Europeans. And we invited Black people all around Europe and the US to come and participate. And one thing that I think is extremely deeply problematic is that when you go to Brussels, which is Europe's capital, and you see a statue of King Leopold on a horse being celebrated as one of the best that Belgium has produced, then you know that whiteness is all over it. You know that history has been written by people, by the oppressors. You know, there's an African proverb that says, until the lions get their own storytellers, the stories of hunting will always glorify the hunter. And that's what's happening, because that king, the same king that is being glorified here in Europe, is the same king that went to Congo and killed 10 million Congolese and robbed Congo in so many years with the help of European leaders to build the Europe that we live in today. But yet, when we talk about him, his name does not provoke fear, his name does not provoke any form of sympathy or anger when we talk about King Leopold. Instead, we celebrate him. And this happens in every part of Europe now. In Sweden, where I come from, it's exactly the same. Now, I don't know if you know this, because I'm sure most of you, when we talk about Sweden, you have this fantastic image of Sweden. It's one of the best countries in the world. And all the reports that you read in Europe, they are number one. But then Sweden has been a part of this transatlantic slave trade. But no, people don't know that, because the Swedish government don't even want to acknowledge of that. And this is fact. It's not something that we're making up. And one person in Sweden that's been celebrated more than anybody else is a man called Carl Linné. Carl Linné was the one of the first people in the world, scientists, that categorized human beings in different races. He was one of the first racial biologists in the world. But Carl Linné is put on Swedish currency in money. 100 crowns, you see his picture celebrated as one of the best scientists that Sweden has ever had. But when we speak about him in Sweden, we don't talk about that he categorized human beings. We talk about that he categorized flowers and plants. Again, the production of knowledge. Who's the one that is behind the production of knowledge that we're talking about today, that we teach our children? So that's why I said, if you're going to talk about the migration situation, that people of African descent are dying every day trying to come to Europe, we have to understand the historical aspect, the historical aspect, that they were there first. And when they were there, they captured and kidnapped and forced people across the Atlantic. Forced people. It was so bad that black people would jump and kill themselves. They would drown themselves, rather drown themselves than come to Europe or come to the colonies. Brutal history. And you go from that history to colonization, where you come, you conquer, you rob, you dehumanize, you impose all your ideas and language and culture on the people. And you erase everything that has to do with their identity. And you own them. And yet, when we talk about colonization today, in Sweden, where I come from, we don't even talk about it because it's not in the history books. Even though Sweden had two colonies, one in Ghana, one in St. Petersburg. But we don't talk about it because that is not something that can be associated to Swedish history. But we need to talk about it because that's the only way we can change the narrative. That's the only way we can be involved in the production of knowledge. Because if we are not involved in the production of knowledge, the knowledge of ourselves would always be oppressive. It would always be something that is negative. It would not reflect the real history of our people. Now, from enslaving us and forcing us across the Atlantic to today, where the European continent and the West would roar. If you look at, let's take a couple of examples. If you look at Congo, in Europe today we talk about the environment. We have, every country has a goal that we need to reach when it comes to carbon dioxide, you know, the environment. We need to work on making sure that we can live in a healthy environment. In Sweden, one of the things that we've done is we want people to start driving electric cars because we think that is good. The CO emissions is almost zero, so it's better to use electric cars. So in Parliament, we are all, you know, everybody's happy about. We're investing a lot of money in getting electric cars cheaper for people to buy. And we're imposing taxes on cars that have very high emissions. So people will not be able to afford to buy those cars. Now, when I was in Parliament and we were discussing the investment that we're making in trying to help people afford electric cars, was some of the opposition came and said, you know, we're bringing in one of the world's largest battery producers to Sweden. They're going to open a factory here, they're going to employ a lot of people. And I asked the question, do you know that every battery that you'll be using would need coltan? And do you know that Sweden does not have coltan? Do you know what country has coltan? Congo. Do you know who is in Congo taking this, robbing this coltan? Swedish company and European Western companies. Do you know who are employed in Congo doing this job, going in mines, 7 and 10-year-old children? Do you know how much they are paid? They are paid less than, you know, €0.50 per day. Now, would you want your children to be working in mines in Sweden, paid less than €0.50 a day? None of you would want that, but you don't mind black people doing that in Congo. Now, these are realities that we have to face and we need to realize when we're driving our beautiful cars here and we, you know, beating our chest and saying we're very good with the environment because we don't have CO emissions in this country. We're driving very effective, very good vehicles. We're using mobile phones. We're using IT, you know, technology, which is good. But you have to always, those of us that are interested in these issues, have to always raise the question: how was this product produced? Who produced this product? Now, if we're doing that in that part of the continent, in that part of the world, in Africa, and we're still colonizing people, we're still using the resources that we have here to enrich ourselves while we making sure that people in Africa are becoming more and more poor, they're being poorer and poorer, their living conditions are getting worse, the environment is getting worse. Now, how do we expect them not to want to come and make use of what we have here? Because if you're looking at it from an objective point of view, whatever we have here is a product of people's labor back there. You have workers and poor people that make it possible for us to be able to have what we have today. And that's historically from the slave trade to colonization to today. And that's not only enough. We sell weapons to these countries. Just like during the slave trade, you know, you come, you find a king or a chief in the village and you say, you know, I'll give you a gun. You give me 20 enslaved Africans, I'll give you a gun. I'll give you a mirror. We sell weapons. Sweden is one of, I think, the third or the fourth world's largest weapon sellers in the world. But yet, we are one of the most neutral and peaceful countries, if you ask most people. But we still sell weapons. Iraq war, Swedish weapons, most of them that the Americans were using. If you look at South Africa, we sell weapons to them. If you look at Saudi Arabia, we sell weapons to them. We sell weapons and we sell technologies that are used to brutalize and oppress people in these countries. And yet when those people that are brutalized and oppressed by weapons and technologies that we supply their leaders, when they run away, they flee for their lives and they want to come to us, then we say no. We close the gates and say you're not welcome. Capital is okay for it to be mobile. We globalize capital. As long as there's money in Saudi Arabia, we'll take it. That's okay. We can have our businesses there. We can have our businesses in Congo. That's okay. But when people want to move from Congo to Belgium or to France or to Sweden, no, they're not welcome. And we need to talk about these issues. And for me, as an activist in politics, I think that's my role in making sure that I make these realities visible. So we don't just be blinded by mainstream media that's basically owned by the capitalist system that makes it impossible for you and I to understand the dynamics that are involved in our everyday life and some of the things that we take for granted here. And we just think, this is normal. Of course I get this, I'm paying my taxes. We need to ask these questions. Why is it that people today want to leave the African continent and come to Europe? Why is it that people will go through hell? People will be enslaved in Libya. Black people, I'm not talking about the 1700s and the 1600s and 1800s. I'm talking about today, yesterday, last week, tomorrow. You would see black people that are enslaved, they are bought and owned by other people. And they will tie ropes around their necks, selling them to the highest bidder. Today, in Libya, it's happening. Have you seen any leaders lately standing side by side in Paris or in New York or in Berlin and marching and saying, we are so disgusted by what is happening in Libya and we're going to do whatever within our power to stop that? It hasn't happened and it will not happen. The only conference that the UN had on people of African descent happened a few months ago in Switzerland. I was there, and they invited all the countries to come. It was less than 5 countries represented, and none of them sent any high-profile politician. And at that conference, it was right after CNN had published that black people have been enslaved in Libya. Now, that was an opportunity for them to come and say, this is not acceptable, we're going to make sure that this will stop. But none of that happened. And that shows how little they care about our lives. How little they care when they were enslaving us, when they colonized us, and today. They still do not care about black lives. Black bodies would be drowning every day. They've been drowning since before we even started talking about the Syrian war. They've been drowning since before all these refugees are coming. Black people have been drowning. On my mobile phone, I have pictures of children that are washed off on the shores. I have pictures, many pictures of women, pregnant women, old women, that are drowned in the Mediterranean. But you don't see any Twitter storm about it. You don't see leaders talking about it. You don't see the EU having meetings and say, we need to do something about it. Why? Because these are black bodies. And black bodies are not worth anything in the West. This is weird. I know as a black man that I can get killed any day. As a politician, as an activist, I get threatened every day. And I know if my life is taken tomorrow, people will move on the next day. I'm not naive, I know this. I get threats every single day sent to me by email to my home. I move from one apartment to another. I move from one place to another with Secret Service security and everything. But yet people will find me and they say, you know what? When we get our hands on you, we're going to lynch you like they used to do in the United States. We're going to lynch you and your entire family. And I know they will do it. Not because I'm creating any problems in Sweden. What I'm saying is everybody that lives in Sweden, that lives in Europe, should be given the same rights to live the same living conditions, you should have the possibility to reach your potential. And you cannot be judged because of the way you look, because of who you choose to love, because of your origin. You cannot be, your living conditions cannot be determined by that. They have to be determined by who you are, what you do, your character. And when you say that, they say, we're going to kill you. And we know, if my brother here, Quincy, this stress that I'm talking about, he knows, he was attacked in public, where everybody could see he was filming, and yet nothing happens. You go to Germany, you hear about Woody Jala's story, where a black person who's an immigrant came to Germany, who was killed, born alive in 900 degrees heat. The police were let go. And this happens every single EU country, that black people are brutalized, and their lives do not matter. And this is something for me that I think we need to talk about. Now, what can we do? Because it's one thing formulating the problem and saying, these are some of the problems that we have. And we have a historical oppression that we've been going through as black people, as people of African descent, as migrants. And we've moved from being enslaved people to free people, from being free people to migrants, from being migrants to citizens, and yet treatment doesn't change. We still treat it the same. If you are a migrant or if you are a member of parliament, we still treat it. I get stopped at the airport every time I pass through the airport. I get stopped by the cops when they see me and they ask for an ID. People call me the N-word, but I don't even know. In Germany here, when I came, I was looking for a place to eat. And the first two ladies that I approached, they ran away. And I just said, excuse me, and they ran away. So it doesn't matter how intellectual you are, doesn't matter how well dressed you are, doesn't matter what position in society you have, it doesn't matter if you're a refugee or not, you're still treated the same if you're a black person. And that is a problem that we need to talk about. Now, to conclude, I just want to mention the other side. The other side is, what do we need to do? Now, we need to make sure that we create a different narrative, because the narrative about black people and blackness has always been controlled by the very people that are always historically and currently oppressors. And of course it makes sense. If we are the lions and they are the hunters, and they're the ones telling the story about the hunting, they will always glorify themselves. So what do we need to do? We need to do, as lions, we need to create our own storytellers. We need to tell our own history. We need to make sure that we speak out and say, it is not as you say it is, but this is the truth, our truth. And we need to be able to take that. It's a risk in most cases, because when you do that, you get attacked. When you do that, you get threatened. When you do that, you can get killed. Today, I'm not talking about 50 years ago. Today, 2018, that when you stick out your neck and speak the truth, you get attacked. In Sweden, I will tell you this. The polls came 2 days ago, and it said the neo-Nazi party in Sweden that is in parliament is the second largest according to the polls in Sweden. We have elections in less than 3 months, and the polls are saying they are the second largest. And when we made the decision yesterday to vote and to make sure that these 9,000 refugees, these children, would have the right to stay, one of the neo-Nazis wrote on Facebook or Twitter that you better enjoy this couple of months, because in 3 months, we're going to cut it off. That's the kind of life that we see in Europe today, in almost all the countries. We see it in Poland, we see it in Hungary, and it's getting out of hand, but yet when we talk, we say, you know, it's a democratic continent. All the EU is democratic, we have democratic values, we respect people's human rights, but not black people, not people of African descent, not immigrants. We use most of the EU, a lot of the EU money, trying to build walls for people not to come. We have Frontex. We're spending so much money on a system that would use violent methods to keep people from coming here. But yet, you have people in Europe today that are well qualified and they cannot get jobs. You have people in Europe today, just because they look the way they look. You have people in Europe today that don't have equal access to health services, just because of the way they look. But we can spend money, millions and millions and millions of euros, trying to build walls so people cannot come into this country. That is not right and that is not fair. And that's why we need to make sure that in our work that we do, all of us, you don't have to be people of African descent, we need to tell the other story, the other side of the story. We need to make sure that we raise issues, we build alliances. Because that's the only way forward. We need to build alliances so that when I say we as immigrants in Europe, and even non-immigrants, those black people that are born and raised here several generations. I have children that are born and raised here. But according to the neo-Nazi in Sweden, when they get into power, they will send them back home. So where's their home? And they will do that because they're doing that in the UK. You see what's happening in the UK? They're deporting people that have been living in the UK for several generations who are British. So if they can do that in the UK, you can be rest assured they will do that here. And history is about to repeat itself. We know European history, we know what happened in Germany, and all of us that are sitting here have a responsibility. The responsibility to act. We cannot sit and pretend that nothing is happening. Things are changing, and the immigration system and the policies that we are making is not only going to affect people that have moved here, it is a racist immigration system and immigration policies. It is based on people that are racialized and people that are white. If you are white, you're privileged. If you are non-white, you are on the danger zone. Doesn't matter if you moved here or if you are born here. And the day they take over power, they wouldn't make a difference between me and my children or Quincy. We've seen that happen in Germany. We're going to see that happen again if we do not act. And this is a very urgent situation that I'm raising here. And I'm hoping that you will all, when you go back home or do whatever you need to do, you will do whatever you need to do to enlighten people that we are at a level where it is extremely dangerous and we need to react and we need to tell the stories. Black people are here because the West have been in Africa. Black people are here because we contributed, we fought. My great-grandfather fought for Europe in the First World War and Second World War. People died to protect me. And they begged people to come to Europe and fight. Now, the same people that we fought to protect their rights are saying we are not welcome. That's something that's unacceptable. And we all, I think, can contribute in making sure that anybody that lives in this continent can feel free, can feel that we have the same rights as everybody else. Thank you so much.
I'm going to speak in English. It's not because I'm mastering English language. It's because I'm forced to speak English language. I've never been in England, only 5 days, or in America. But now you can see I speak because of the force. First of all, I was born in a village where we have our mother tongue, and I was forbidden to talk my mother tongue in the school. I was beaten up, carried the head of the dog like a skeleton as a punishment of my mother tongue. So I thought like, okay, to be somebody up there, I have to speak English. But I never master English because only in the school, in the class, when you go out, it's done. When I moved to Khartoum, I got a new language, which is Arabic. Because Arabic, we speak in the town or cities, but in the village is something else. So when I went there, I was forced to speak Arabic. I never master Arabic, never master my language, never I hang between these 3-4 languages. When I came to Germany, the first thing they told me that Napoli, you are in Deutschland. No, das ist Deutschland, du musst Deutsch sprechen, something like this. I was like, no, I just came today, how can I speak? Say, no, this is Deutschland, du musst speak. So for me, it was like, not again. I fed up up to here. Now I can say, no, not anymore. I have to fight for my right. Why am somebody else? I have to jump from place to place. People tell me what to do, what to, where, what to do, anything. In Germany, you must do something called integration. Integration in lagers. You know where lagers are? From middle of nowhere. No even connection. So we have to integrate ourselves, to walk like European, to dress, to eat like European. So this is what I got. And I say, no, I will speak English now. Yes, it's colony, I speak English, not German for now. And then they say, no, if you want to be in Germany, you have to. Otherwise, you cannot stay in Germany and everything. So why the language should be the basic of everything? That was fully stop for me. Anyway, what we are talking about is what to do with refugees and migrants in Western world, particularly in Germany. When I came, I was first, having this position of, okay, I'm an activist, I have to, we exchange, because I had position in my country. I have to explain myself, bring your license and explain yourself so that you can, the door will be open to Europe. So that was in 2007. I went to Sweden, and we need to meet with the refugees, but we met with refugees in the restaurant, in universities, in the hotel. I have no clue. I was like, wow, perfect. Europe is heaven. This heaven, green and white. Because the people feel not good to take us to where refugees are. And the refugees are also fear of being refugees. I don't like this word refugees actually. I don't know what does it mean, That was it. When I came to Germany then, 2012, I got that, wow. What I was doing in my country, I was going to rural areas to meet with IDPs, to talk to IDPs. But here also I got IDPs and I got rural areas. Rural areas and the refugees who have nothing, 0%. So then I asked, where are these refugees? Let me see where they are. But they forbid me to go and visit them. So we are located to different, 16 states of Germany. If you are Sudanese, you have to locate it in somewhere, like Niedersachsen, for example. All the Sudanese, they go there. The Syrians, they go to, like this. So I couldn't get it until I jumped and I was 6 days in the lager to find out what is it and why you are like this, what can we do? There was no space for us to even talk because there is fear, a lot of fear, or maybe much fear in the lagers. Because they say, if you try to do something, your document will be dirty. People are saying, I have to behave as they want so I can get the permission to stay or, but that will last for 20 years and more. So I became a refugee because I was actually to go to Sweden because I have friends in Sweden. So I decided to go to Laga, and I went to Laga and applied as a refugee for 1 month. And then from there, I mobilized refugees that we have to do something, while we are practicing our great-grandparents. Because here in Germany, if you talk about the third person, I like this to talk about the third person, even if I'm in that category of refugees, but I still say they, we have to see, because here in Germany, you need to talk face to face like this. You, what is your problem, But if you say they, and then they say it's not your business, it is they, when they come, and then they can talk, This is exactly when, in 2012, when we went to Bundestag, is it Bundestag? Which is parliament. We went there, and then they say, no, you have to talk about your problem. And they say, okay, we will give you, give us your name, and we give you what you want, and just go away. Exactly colonization, divide and rule, right? And the people were there. And then we say, no, we are not talking about ourselves alone. We are talking about they are out there, including me. So this is where I got they, or the third person, is very close to talk about whether they like or not. That's why I'm standing here, even if, I get the document, is still, my friends are there, they are threatened, which means I am threatened, I am threatened. If sometimes they say, okay, you are very intelligent and you are good, and you are not like them. No, they insult you. So for me, when somebody say, okay, I appreciate you, you are very intelligent, what do you mean I'm very intelligent? And they are not intelligent. So this is where now, like for example, when we came to Oranienplatz, we fought until 2015 where I got my document. But in 2013, I went around to make transnational tour to also see the refugees, the problem. Because the problem can be the same, but in a different layers. You don't know, maybe here we have lagers, but in France, they are outside without lagers. What does it mean? If you go to Zurich or to, what do you call, Switzerland, you get them, they are in bunkers, inside the bunkers. It's horrible, right? How, these differences, we need to know. So that's why when I went there, I already gave all my belongings to my friend, and I say, if I am, catch somewhere and I am deported, like to Sudan, please send me my belongings. Because I feel much to do, because Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. We sometimes talk blah, 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 then we are not different than politicians. The politicians are very sweet mouth. They have that sweet mouth. Blah, blah, blah. We know, we understand. Okay, you understand. So what? Until when? So we have to walk our talk until we see what we can do. Because then, if you make an action, you feel. If you are captured by police or beaten, you feel strong. You say, this is victory. I know why, So for us, we were last in the prison, if not prison, and then you are in the what do you call it? The hospital. If you are not in the hospital, and then you have lawyer. So all these things are there. Because we have to bring that, the third person, to us. We, the activists. It is time to walk our talk. Not to because sometimes I found out with I'm talking like this because what to do, because the situation is there already. Sometimes we say, okay, we need political fight, Okay, I have no choice to fight these refugees, right. I have no choice. But you in Germany, let's say you have choice of maybe go to a group of anti-fascists or anti-racists or gender issues or whatever. But for me, I don't have. All these are important, but I don't have. Because we are still talking about how to eat and sleep. Not even, this is the primary rights that everyone can have. But if we talk about, okay, we have a political space to talk about, with refugees are different, I'm telling you. Political for refugees, food is political because some people say, okay, I don't want to provide food, I don't want to visit them in the lagers, I don't, because I need actually a political, concrete concept that I can find. But with refugees, you have to visit them where they are, because they need that attention that, oh, there is somebody here who is with us, who I can speak with. Because sometimes if you swallow the problem, it is, one day it will be like boom. Some people then can commit suicide, some people can do whatever, some people can drink. Why not? I can drink. Why not? I can sell the what do you call these drugs? Hashish or whatever. I don't know this green stuff. Why not to because I have nothing. I don't know myself anymore. They say you should not take that money because you are, refugees. And now they are always making this kind of, what do you call it, the fares. Mediterranean Sea is not enough for them. The Frontex is not enough for them to control us. But they don't know why the people are coming. They are coming because if you go to Sudan, you can see the companies there. You can see the organization. Even this organization, we go and help people there, But this organization, if you see, I'm telling you, the money is going back to Europe. It's not going to the people there. I was also one of the activists who was working in the organization called Sudanese Organization for Nonviolent Development. We have to go to rural areas, we have to work, we cannot eat anything, while the German services is called DED, if you remember that. Now they changed the names. So they give us the money to conduct the workshop or whatever. But we have to really work like this. And then if we say, look here, we need something, say, no, you are activists. So if I'm activist, I cannot eat. I cannot, I work. What do you mean? So we should not demand that amount because we are activists. So they are in their offices. At the end of the day, they get the report, and then they come to Germany and say, this is what we do. They don't do anything. They have money, but we don't have money. So if it is in that way, please, we don't need anything there. Leave Africa alone. I can say Africa, because some of you think Africa is country, not continent. But Africa is the second largest continent in the world, right? But now reduced to what? To the country. So we have to stand up together, because sometimes it's very, very, very tricky. If you ask what to do, the intellectual, like African intellectual, what to do? They say, well, we have to, we have to stand and fight for our right. If you ask European intellectuals, they say, you know what, we have to leave Africa alone. So stand up and leave alone what? Now the African countries, the dictatorship, they are not standing alone. And you can see why dictatorship. Dictatorship because the Western world can easily command them and can easily, get what they want. Because no one can challenge the dictators there. This is why they keep the dictators to be there. If anyone want to raise up and ask for the right, like Thomas Sankara, they are what? Cut into pieces. Everybody who want to come like this, they are killed. So now